Now, I am going to bring in Dr. Lloyd Amoah to help us gauge the situation with respect to seeking to get some reprieve by approaching China. And you know that he is a foremost expert when it comes to the matter of China and business, Ghana-China or Africa-China business relations. We have 1.7 billion US dollars that we owe to China that we are hoping will give us some reprieve. And we have gone trying to beg. We are being told that at one point we are told things appear to be moving on smoothly. At another point we are being told things are not moving as expected because the projections that we had, including what the president expected will happen, has not happened. So for example, listen to the president when he was bold, telling us when we are clinching a deal with the IMF.
Mm-hmm. Assistance to repair in the short term our public finances and restore our balance of payments, whilst we continue to work on the medium to long-term structural changes that are at the heart of our goal of constructing a resilient, robust Ghanaian economy and building a Ghana beyond aid. Reaching an agreement with the board of the fund, which we hope to do very soon, will set the stage for the strong recovery of Ghana's economy.
Of Ghana worries all of us, and the question of debt it is treated by Club of Paris, but not only, also from a common framework. I think the discussion with the China and the role of China, it will be very, very important. So that's why I spoke to you about the importance of the common framework. But of course, we totally support and we will be beside you for the action that will have to be undertaken by the IMF and also the World Bank because the country needs to regain the economic stability.
Right, so here, that's the president you heard earlier, and then France seeking to, put in a word for us, is it? And as we understand, Beijing is the single largest holder of Ghanaian debts. With such a huge debt portfolio to China, it is impossible to restructure Ghana's external debt stock without China at the negotiation table. So you have followed that Ghana has been appealing to various nations to try and put in a word for us in China. And as we understand, even the World Bank is trying to do a bit of that for us, having actually made a statement and suggested to China that they have to be quick about this for Ghana. Dr. Lloyd Amoah, thank you so very much for making time to join us here on Newsfile. From your reading, how is this going for us? And how do we secure, China's blessing going forward? And I can imagine that the Paris Club and the rest of them, they will be a bit hesitant in how they deal with us. Everybody wants to see who is going to do what for Ghana at what time.
Well, thank you very much, Samson, for having me on. The line has been breaking a bit, but I hope you can hear me.
Very clearly.
Okay, fantastic. This essentially is a game of chess, not checkers. And Ghana essentially has been roped into the complex concourses of international geopolitics and geoeconomics. And essentially, we are facing, obviously, a debt problem. And this debt problem is tied to time. And so, in a sense, we are in a rush trying to meet deadlines involving the International Monetary Fund so that we get a program. My reading of the China scenario is in a bit of a bind. The Chinese just recently came off a massive meeting of the parliament, if you like, and key policy decisions were taken. Now, when you look at these decisions, you see that China is trying to deal with its own internal issues, and is therefore seized by them. For example, if you look at the Chinese economy, the real estate side is presenting some problems to them. People have taken loans and all of that, and getting those loans back has become important for Chinese economists and those who run their finance side. Again, the issue of technology. As we all know, Huawei has the lead when it comes to 5G, fifth generation, telephony and all of that. And China is increasingly trying to move up and strengthen its technological muscle. But this is essentially being hampered by questions of microchips, and getting access to high performing microchips, which China has tended to depend on its supplies from Europe and especially America, Taiwan, and the rest of them. It doesn't have a foundry, or foundries to build the kind of especially high-end chips, especially the memory chips that it needs to more or less continue to deepen its technological capacity. So these are things that China is deeply worried about and is thinking about. At the level of international relations, the Taiwan question is niggling Chinese strategies. Nancy Pelosi visited Taiwan recently. The Taiwan president now essentially made a stopover in the U.S. and met the third highest ranking personality in the American government. So all of these questions has China wanting to deal with this problem so that it would have a clear sense of where it is headed, strengthen its economy, allow it to become the kind of rival to the U.S., as it were. And here comes this little country, Ghana, that is not, in a sense, handling its economic questions the way it should. We owe China close to $2 billion, and we want the Chinese to, in a sense, help us restructure that. But we have to look at that in terms of China and its economy and its interests and all of that. The Chinese have been supporting us over the last 60 odd years. They have written off some of our debts during the Kufuor era, for example. They have made a lot of investments in China at the level of ODA, official development assistance, and all of that. Now, when you look at West Africa, Ghana ranks amongst the first three. If you look at the long durée, if you look at the data, going back 1958 to say 2014, Ghana ranks amongst the leading countries, first three, that the Chinese have supported in terms of projects, construction, and the rest of them. So I think that the Chinese will be facing a little bit of some fatigue with this country that it has tried to support. And yet it doesn't seem that this country is turning the corner and standing on its own 2 feet. We must not forget that historically, China, vast territory, more population, more complicated geopolitical, geoeconomic reality before. The Chinese had to, for example, fall on the Japanese. They are sworn enemies historically to try and rebuild the Chinese economy. The Chinese had to fall on the World Bank, going in for loans and all of that. What was the record? The Chinese paid on time every loan that they took from the World Bank. And the literature is there. So why is it that a resource-endowed country, a particularly well-educated a population for this country, a country with historically very important in Africa, is still not able to get its act together? And I think this is a big problem that would weigh in the moves that the Chinese will make on the chessboard and further complicate the Ghanaian case. And as we have seen, it's obvious that we are not getting the right sound bites. We are not getting the right feedback from the trip that the finance minister had. I mean, when you look at the key guys that we need to talk to, for example, Li Qiang, who is in a sense like Jirongji, he's now the economic czar. This was the guy who was doing a lot of work when the reform and opening up period took place from 1978 upwards. He became governor of Zhejiang on the eastern side of China. He worked in Shanghai and all of that. These are hard-nosed guys who really saw China roll up its sleeves, go in there and engage the world. Special economic zones, bring in FDI, modulate these FDIs, direct them to proper areas that will benefit China and all of that. And here we are with a China that has risen and moved a chunk of its people, over 800 million by the data, out of poverty. Why is it that Ghana, since 1983, we've been running this neoliberal capitalist economy consistently? Why haven't we been able to turn the corner? And we go in for loans. We went into the what I call the casino mode. We were running essentially a casino economy, borrowing from the capital markets. And of course, you want to borrow, but you need to have some kind of strategic orientation in terms of what you want to do with that, because you have to pay the loan anyway, or the loans anyway. And then we get, hit by, events in the international political economy, and we seem to be teetering on the brink of collapse. So it's a difficult situation for Ghana vis-a-vis the Chinese. Their own history, where they came from, where they are, dictates to them that the Ghanaian case has become pathological.
All right. Dr. Lloyd Amoah. Hello, Dr. Lloyd Amoah.
Yeah.
Right. So, seeing that we have had the IMF chief, Kristalina Georgieva, tell, China's top economic official, that is Li Qiang, that they need to accelerate their work to reach debt restructuring agreements for countries like Zambia, Ghana, and Ethiopia. Do you think this will be accelerated in the manner that they expect?
Well, that's a tough question. The Chinese will have to make their own calculations in terms of their finances and how the Ghanaian aspect feeds into it. The idea that somehow or other, that because of our strain with the IMF and the fact that it's bound to time, the Chinese should therefore run for us, is in a sense, in many ways, a bit far-fetched, if not naive.
You have the United States and other Western countries that have faulted China for causing delays in setting up restructuring agreements for heavily indebted countries. that I have asked for help under the common framework set up by the G20 major economies.
Yeah, I'm listening.
Yes. So if countries like the US and others are faulting China for causing delays in this process, what is it that we can do to get them to quickly get us to the next window that we are hoping we will get in March?
Well, I mean, we went
in May.
into these negotiations on our own volition. We went in with our own sense of what we wanted. We are a sovereign nation. Our governments are made of adults, And so we engaged China, on our terms in terms of where we wanted to go with the loans that we sought to secure and all of that. So the idea that China is the cause is wrong-headed. I mean, the case cannot be sustained. The argument cannot be made. The argument wobbles. It stands on very weak legs. So that aspect of any argumentation is rather laughable. I can imagine the Chinese strategists that John and I laughing their head off and saying, Ghana, you went, in other words, these Ghanaians, do they have a problem? Are they serious? So that argument cannot be made.
Okay.
Our best bet, in my view, lies less in American pressure, because note, the Americans recently passed an act, the Chips and Something Act, I remember the second word, which is looking at squeezing China in terms of its chip making capacity and sending high technology to China and all of that, in order to, in effect, strangulate China and squeeze them, get them into a vice grip, so that they don't continue their upward technology march and rival the U.S., which the Chinese in many ways have surpassed when it comes to technology in key aspects. So the U.S. cannot, in my view, be the key queen on the chessboard to move China to support Ghana. Our best bet might be sympathy and the long historical, friendly, fraternal ties that our country has with China.
All right.
And that, to depend on that is dicey. And we are seeing that obviously, And so I think that we are clearly in a very, very difficult place.
Okay.
China is attending to its own tactical strategic problems at the local and global level. Okay. And this for Ghana, that doesn't offer in any way any far-reaching strategic benefits to them. Can at best be a peripheral entity that China might like to.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Lloyd George Amoah, of the Center for Asian Studies, University of Ghana, Legon.